I'm Micah Johnson here with the News 13 Eye on the Candidates, and today in the studio we have Phil Newton, who is running for the Borough Assembly Seat G against incumbent Mike Music. How you doing today, Phil?
I'm doing great.
All right, it's good to have you in the studio. Let's jump right into talking about this. Is your first foray into politics, correct?
This is my first shot at running for Borough Assembly.
All right, so I mean that's a difficult decision. Can you talk about why you decided to do that?
Well, I mean, it was kind of a call to action for me. I've watched what the Assembly has been doing lately, and I disagree with a lot of the current decisions. I feel that there's a lack of leadership within the Assembly, that they're passing the buck on decisions that they should be able to make, and so it's been a call to action for me. So I've decided to throw my hat in the ring and show some real leadership.
So talk a little bit about how long you've lived in Fairbanks and how you've been involved with the community, and maybe a little bit more about what sort of a background you have that you think will help you out on the Borough Assembly as a member.
All right, well, I've been in Fairbanks since 1989. We've lived out in North Pole. As far as being involved in the community, I've been a scout since I've been here. Became an Eagle Scout here, and so I've been serving since I was about this tall. I've been instructed on how to be a leader, you know, either through brutal lessons given to me by my scoutmasters or my father, or through my time serving in the Air National Guard. I've run OK Lumber Ace Hardware, which has given me the ability to know how it is to run a budget and to manage multiple employees. I started up my own high-speed internet company when I seen that there was a need for high-speed internet in rural areas around Fairbanks. I started climbing towers, putting equipment up, and started a high-speed internet company. On top of that, I run my own IT consulting company, and I'm involved in HVAC and refrigeration quite often.
All right, so let's talk about one of the biggest issues that the Borough Assembly is facing, you know, this election cycle and probably will be looking at over the next few years, and that's the EPA's non-attainment ruling and the issue of air quality. I was at the Republican luncheon earlier, and you were speaking a little bit, and it seemed like you were suggesting that the borough hasn't done enough to contest the EPA's non-attainment ruling.
Absolutely. I mean, we have the EPA out there who openly admits they don't understand the inversion layer that we get here in Fairbanks. They don't understand the particulate issue that we have here in Fairbanks, yet they want to impose their timeline and their rules upon us. And the borough has written a memorandum of understanding that pretty much in step does exactly what the EPA would like us to do. I think that our Borough Assembly showed a lack of leadership when, instead of just simply voting that memorandum of understanding down and then rewriting it to work for Fairbanks, decided to put a question on the ballot that has very little to do with finding solutions to the particulate problem. So yeah, absolutely, I'm very disappointed in the borough on how they've handled this issue, and certainly it's one of the reasons why I'm running.
And most of the borough administration, you know, the people I've talked to have said contesting that in court would be too expensive, you know, and it wouldn't be legally or financially feasible. What do you think of that?
If the borough doesn't have the ability to stand up to the EPA, then ultimately it's the state that's in charge of our air quality, and we need to go to the state and have them stand up to the EPA. Communities have stood up to the EPA, and they have been successful. So I think it's a bit of a cop-out. I think that they're probably trying to, you know, if we ever want to find out what's going on, follow the money. And that memorandum of understanding was certainly written in such a way to maximize the amount of federal dollars that they could get. I don't think that rolling over to the EPA is going to solve our particulate issue. I don't think that it's going to solve the energy problems that are facing Fairbanks right now. What we need is clear action. We need leadership. We need more affordable energy brought to Fairbanks. We need to open up possibly more wood cutting areas to allow people to get more firewood and have the ability to dry it and season it better to take care of the problem. And we just overall need to get an educational program going to teach people about particulates, and we ourselves need to learn what's actually going on before we just dive into an agreement with either the state or the EPA. At the moment, the state is better equipped to handle this problem. But our current assembly, instead of solving the problem and doing their job, has put a question on the ballot that isn't going to further us along at all in finding solutions to energy problems in Fairbanks.
So are you saying that you still feel that the air quality is an issue that needs to be addressed, but not how the EPA is trying
Absolutely. I mean, we have to be good stewards of Fairbanks. We have to be conscious that if there's a health issue, we need to take care of it. We just need to take care of it and come up with real solutions and not political posturing.
So here's a controversial topic that the Borough Assembly recently passed an ordinance that's been called the bag tax, and that was the 5-cent tax on all the plastic bags. It's going to take effect in 2010. And I believe that your opponent voted against that, but how do you feel about that?
I'm opposed to the bag fee, as Nadine Winters wrote the ordinance to call it. I'm opposed to it. I mean, what really shocks me about the bag fee is that we didn't do an economic impact study. We're going to pull $500,000 or whatever it happens to be in the end out of the economy without a clear plan on how we're going to spend it. So our borough assembly just voted on an ordinance without fully understanding the impact of the ordinance, without having any solid concrete on how it's going to affect, how it's going to work, how we're going to spend the money, and they voted it in. And that's very disappointing to see that our borough is willing to apply their power to vote on an issue that hasn't been properly vetted. I think it showed a very lack of responsibility for the borough assembly as it currently is, and it showed a lack of leadership.
So I've been to a few forums, and a lot of times the candidates are saying that the most important item in the budget they think is education funding. And so would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, education is the biggest portion of our budget and the one that we need to focus on the most. And I'm always for lowering our administrative costs and getting more money into the classroom, more money to the students to make sure that we are giving the best education that we can. I mean, we need to strive to make sure that our students are the best educated in the nation, and I think that we constantly have to review that budget and make sure that that's where the money's going. The Borough Assembly doesn't have line item veto ability within the budget, but we do have the ability to get involved on the early process and then communicate with the community, bring the community in, and get them involved as well, to make sure that when we're passing these budgets, we're meeting the expectations of the parents and we're meeting the needs of the students.
So we've covered a few important topics here, but what other issues do you feel need to be addressed at the Borough Assembly level?
Certainly the budget's going to be my primary focus while I'm in the Borough Assembly. I think that we need to lower the budget. I think that we need to look at things that we do year after year and see how we can become more efficient at them and cut cost. I certainly think that we need to focus on energy needs for Fairbanks. We need to get lower cost energy here. We need to make it easier for people to heat their homes, whether it be wood, whether it be natural gas. And, you know, I think that we need to focus a little less on recycling programs and a little bit more on the things that are affecting us on a day-to-day basis.
All right, so I think that's all the time we have for today, so thank you very much for joining me in the studio.
Thank you very much.
All right, so once again, everyone, this is Phil Newton. He is running for the Borough Assembly Seat G. Don't forget to get out and vote on October 6th. I'm Micah Johnson. We're all finished here, but don't go anywhere yet because we have sports coming up next. You're watching News 13.